So on a single Monday evening in Gilroy, California, local officials were basically juggling the world. I mean, they simultaneously negotiated multi-year labor contracts, absorbed really intense public protests over a global tech monopoly, and then turned around and spent nearly $500,000 building a digital brain for the city's water supply.
Yeah, it's a wild sequence of events for just one night.
Right? So today, for everyone listening, we are not just reading a mundane 7-page city council agenda. We are essentially reverse engineering the DNA of a modern city to see how it actually survives the week.
Which is honestly the best way to look at municipal documents.
Exactly. Okay, let's unpack this. Because if you look closely at the Gilroy City Council regular meeting agenda for July 27, 2026, it is, well, it's a masterclass in the invisible machinery of local governance.
It really is. And, to really understand what we're looking at, you have to ground yourself in the specific logistics of this moment in time.
Yeah, set the scene for us.
So this is a hybrid meeting at City Hall. It's at 7351 Rosanna Street, led by Mayor Greg Bodzo. And what immediately jumps out, like right from the header of this document, is the sheer technological infrastructure required just to hold a legal public meeting today.
Oh, yeah, the accessibility stuff is wild.
Right. You have Zoom links for remote participation, obviously. But more impressively, there are QR codes printed directly on the agenda. You scan them, and you get real-time written translation.
That's amazing.
Yeah, and if you are physically in the room, you can actually check out a headset to hear the proceedings translated into Spanish simultaneously.
Which, to me, points to this really fascinating tension right at the start of the night. Because on one hand, the city is deploying all this modern tech to be radically accessible to a multilingual public.
Very inclusive, yeah.
Right. But on the other hand, they are enforcing incredibly rigid, like old-school parliamentary rules.
All the time limits.
Exactly. They explicitly limit speakers to 1 to 3 minutes at the mayor's discretion, and they cap comments strictly after the third speaker on any specific item. It is this highly engineered environment just trying to process raw democracy.
Well, that procedural rigidity is a defense mechanism. It has to be.
How so?
Because a local government has to process a staggering amount of legal and financial business before midnight. I mean, if they let public comment run unchecked all night, the actual business of keeping the city solvent just grinds to a halt.
Yeah, that makes total sense.
The city literally has to manage its internal workforce before it can even begin to serve the external community.
Which actually brings us to the first critical item on the docket. Because before the public doors even open at 6:00 p.m., the council is in a closed session at 5:00 p.m.
Right, the early meeting.
Yeah, they're behind closed doors with their labor negotiator, city administrator Matt Morley. And they're hammering out terms with the Gilroy firefighters, Local 2805.
And we should clarify, because a lot of people see closed session on an agenda and immediately assume, like, shady backroom dealing.
Oh, totally. It sounds so secretive.
It does, but labor negotiations actually legally require strategic privacy. I mean, you can't show your hand on wages and benefits in an open forum with cameras rolling.
Oh, you'd lose all your leverage.
Precisely. And that private negotiation directly feeds into the public votes they take later in the evening. Like, if you jump down to the new business section of the agenda, you see the massive scale of what they are actually finalizing.
The MOUs?
Yeah. They're voting to approve 3-year Memoranda of Understanding, or MOUs, that lock in salary schedules all the way from July 2026 to June 2029.
And this isn't just, a handful of people. This covers the AFS-CME Local 101 General Unit, their supervisory unit, and then unrepresented confidential and seasonal employees.
It's a huge chunk of the staff.
It is. And for anyone listening who is unfamiliar, AFS-CME is the American Federation of State, County, and Municipal Employees. So they are essentially locking in the financial architecture for a massive percentage of the city's workforce for the next 3 years.
And the mechanics of a 3-year MOU are highly complex. I mean, it's not simple math.
No, I imagine it's a nightmare to forecast.
It really is. The council and the union aren't just looking at today's inflation rates. They are legally binding the city to a forecasted economic reality for 2029.
Which nobody can predict.
Right. They have to calculate projected property tax revenues, state funding allocations, pension liabilities, and then guarantee a wage scale against that totally uncertain future.
Wow.
So it requires an immense amount of specialized historical knowledge to broker a deal that doesn't bankrupt the city, but also doesn't shortchange the workers.
Which makes another detail in this agenda completely fascinating to me. It's like checking the engine oil before a road trip. Not glamorous, but the whole city breaks down without it.
That's a great way to put it.
But get this. The staff member officially running the report for these massive 2029 union agreements is Leanne McPhillips. She's listed as the Interim Human Resources Director.
Okay, pretty standard.
But wait, earlier in the exact same agenda, under ceremonial items, the mayor is presenting a retirement proclamation to, you guessed it, Leanne McPhillips.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And at the same meeting, they're also appointing someone else, Harjot Sangha, as city administrator pro tempore. So my question for you is it normal for a retiring official to be brokering 3-year union deals on her way out the door?
What's fascinating here is that this paradox is actually a perfect illustration of how institutional knowledge functions in local government.
Really? It seems kind of backwards.
It seems contradictory, yeah, to have a retiring official broker a long-term deal. But local governments lean on institutional memory right up until the final second someone walks out the door.
Because she knows where all the bodies are buried, so to speak.
Exactly. She understands the historical friction points of those AFSCME negotiations over the last decade. A newcomer just wouldn't have that context.
That makes a lot of sense.
So the city basically extracts every ounce of that expertise to secure the 2029 contracts while simultaneously initiating the handover to the next generation of leadership with Harjot Sangha.
So the internal machinery is basically constantly replacing its own parts, what the engine is still running.
Beautifully said, yes.
But once that internal business is set, they open the floor to the public. And looking at the meeting minutes from the previous session that are included in this packet, we see a massive collision between local bureaucracy and national tension.
The public comment period is arguably the most complex dynamic a city council ever navigates.
Absolutely. And looking at these minutes, you see a fascinating shift in American governance. And I want to pause here and be incredibly clear. Strictly from a mechanical perspective, regardless of where you, the listener, stand on immigration or big tech, we are taking no political sides here.
Right. We are just reporting what's in the actual document.
Exactly. Our goal is just to show you the factual record of what citizens brought to the microphone. But what we are seeing is local councils being forced to absorb the political heat for massive federal-level issues.
It's a huge burden for a local body.
It is. At 6:40 p.m., the mayor opens public comment, and citizen after citizen steps to the microphone. You've got Jan Guffey, Perla Garcia, Rebecca Armendariz, Perla Flores, and Julie Klein all stepping up to heavily oppose an ICE detention center.
Wow.
Then Raimundo Armendariz requests support for immigrant labor. And right after that, Georgine Scott Cardiga and Lauren H. push back aggressively against a planned Amazon data center.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, we are looking at federal immigration enforcement and the footprint of a trillion-dollar multinational technology corporation.
Right. Not exactly pothole repair.
Not at all. Neither of these are issues that a local city council has ultimate jurisdiction over. I mean, federal law dictates immigration, and interstate commerce and zoning often shield massive data centers from unilateral local vetoes.
So why are they yelling at the mayor about it?
Because citizens bring these fights to City Hall simply because it is the most physically accessible lever of democracy they have. You cannot easily drive to Washington, D.C. or Seattle to protest, but you can drive down to Rosanna Street on a Monday night.
That is such a profound point. But the cognitive load on the council is just wild, because interspersed with those global issues, you have these hyper-local municipal concerns.
Like what?
Well, Ellen Martin uses her time to warn the council about groundwater usage. And then a citizen named Ruby raises safety concerns about the specific operating hours of the 7th Street public parking lot.
Talk about giving yourself mental whiplash.
Seriously, the council has to pivot from debating the geopolitical implications of an ICE facility all the way down to the closing time of a single parking lot, literally in a matter of minutes.
Which logically explains another item buried a bit deeper in the agenda. Under the consent calendar, they are voting on the approval of policy on public comment and meeting decorum during city council meetings.
Basically a mandated policy for good behavior.
Well, it is much more than just asking nicely for good behavior, honestly. It is a legal framework for maintaining what's called a limited public forum.
Okay, break that down for us.
So, under the First Amendment, obviously you have the right to speak. But the government can impose time, place, and manner restrictions to ensure the actual business of the state gets done.
Right, so you can't just filibuster the meeting with a megaphone.
Exactly. When you have highly charged emotional debates over ICE and Amazon, the risk of a meeting derailing into a gridlock shouting match is incredibly high.
And then nothing gets passed.
Right. The decorum policy is a specific mechanical tool to ensure the council can eventually move past the rhetoric and actually vote on the city's infrastructure.
And when they finally do get to vote, they use this procedural loophole to catch up on time. It's called the consent calendar.
Oh, the consent calendar, a classic local government tool.
Here's where it gets really interesting to me. I view the consent calendar as a legislative zip file.
A zip file, I like that.
Yeah. Because the council essentially compresses a dozen different legal ordinances, budget approvals, and contracts into one single folder. They take one single vote to download the folder, and all those laws unpack into the city code simultaneously.
With no debate.
Exactly. No individual debate, no separate discussion, unless a council member explicitly asks to pull an item out. It's kind of like hitting the Accept Terms and Conditions button on a software update.
The legislative zip file is a great way to conceptualize it. It is peak efficiency. But we should note that the contents of that zip file directly dictate the daily physical reality of the citizens. It is not just administrative fluff.
Far from it. Let's look at exactly what Gilroy enacted with a single yes vote that night.
Let's do it.
First, they authorized an amendment to an Axon Fleet 3 agreement. Basically, they procured 6 additional in-car camera systems to maintain patrol operations during fleet replacement.
Which means they're continuously upgrading the technological surveillance and accountability layer of their police force and pacing that procurement with their vehicle turnover.
Smart. Next, they accepted a grant for $120,766 from the Department of California Highway Patrol Cannabis Tax Fund grant program.
That's a mouthful.
It really is. And this specific tranche of money is legally restricted to driving under the influence enforcement activities.
The mechanical flow of that funding is a perfect example of state-to-local policy cascading.
How does that actually work?
Well, when California legalized cannabis, a portion of the state tax revenue generated from those legal sales was legally ring-fenced.
Meaning it could only be used for certain things.
Right. So the state's Board of Equalization collects it, funnels it to the Highway Patrol, which then distributes it via grants to local departments like Gilroy.
Wow.
It is a closed-loop funding mechanism. They are literally using the tax revenue from a legalized intoxicant to specifically fund the local police overtime and the equipment needed to combat impaired driving.
It's a really fascinating revenue pipeline. And in that same legislative zip file, they also tackled speed limits.
Always a hot topic for local residents.
Oh, absolutely. The agenda shows them passing an ordinance to reduce the prima facie speed limits on specific designated streets approaching school zones, bringing it down to 25 miles per hour.
Okay, good to know.
And if you cross-reference the previous minutes, they actually recently passed reductions to 15 and 20 miles per hour inside the school zones.
That's a big slowdown.
It is. Now, for anyone rusty on traffic law, a prima facie limit is a very specific legal lever. It basically means the speed is presumed unsafe if you go over it. But a driver can technically argue in court that their speed was still safe for the actual conditions at that specific time.
Right. It differs from an absolute speed limit, where going even 1 mile over is an automatic, incontrovertible violation.
So why do cities use prima facie limits instead of absolute ones?
Cities utilize them, especially around school zones, because it provides officers the authority to ticket based on presumed danger while still allowing the legal flexibility for varying weather or traffic conditions.
Oh, I see.
Yeah, it is a nuanced approach to traffic calming that balances strict enforcement with due process.
Very cool. And rounding out the consent calendar, they flat out denied a claim from a citizen named Jaime Perez, which actually echoes a similar denial for a John Gansell in the previous meeting.
Yeah, denying claims on the consent calendar is basically the routine deployment of municipal liability shields.
Meaning they just say no to everything.
Pretty much. Unless a claim presents a glaring, undeniable fault by the city, the standard operating procedure is to deny it at the council level. This forces the claimant to pursue formal litigation if they really want to pay out.
It makes sense. It protects the city's general fund from being treated as a casual insurance policy.
Exactly.
So, just to recap, with a single vote, they upgraded police cameras, funneled cannabis tax into DUI enforcement, altered the legal framework of speed limits near schools, and shielded their budget from lawsuits.
All in the blink of an eye.
That is an immense amount of power executed in milliseconds. But if the consent calendar handles the legal and safety parameters of the streets, the later half of the agenda tackles the actual physical footprint of the city.
The concrete, the parks, the buildings.
Exactly. The transition from the regulatory environment to the built environment. And you see a clear push to revitalize the visible communal spaces. For instance, they approved a partnership with a nonprofit called Kaboom to replace the Hannah Playground at Los Alamos Veterans Park.
That specific partnership model is a crucial funding mechanism for modern cities.
Because playgrounds are expensive.
Incredibly expensive. With capital improvements eat up budgets fast. So, by partnering with a dedicated nonprofit like Kaboom, the city essentially crowdsources the funding and the labor, which offsets the burden on the municipal tax base.
Oh, that's really clever.
It is. It allows them to deliver highly visible community benefits without draining the general fund.
They are also looking at long-term equity by authorizing the recordation of affordable housing covenants on 4 city-owned parcels.
Covenants are a huge deal.
Yeah, and a covenant isn't just a promise, right? It is a legal restriction tied directly to the deed of the land. It mandates that regardless of who buys or develops those parcels in the future, the housing built there must remain affordable in perpetuity. So they are legally binding the future use of the dirt itself.
It is one of the most powerful tools local governments have to fight gentrification. It removes those specific parcels from the speculative real estate market permanently.
That's huge.
Yeah.
Alongside that, they introduced an amendment to City Code Chapter 5D regarding vacant commercial space in the downtown historic and downtown expansion districts.
Trying to fill the empty storefronts.
Exactly. They are using the municipal code as an economic lever, which is likely a mix of penalties for keeping spaces empty and incentives to fill them, to basically force landlords to revitalize the downtown core.
Because playgrounds, affordable housing, vibrant storefronts, these are all elements of the visible city. If a storefront is boarded up or a swing set is broken, citizens notice immediately and the council pays the political price.
So what does this all mean? We've got playgrounds on one hand and then... Well, that brings me to the most expensive and perhaps most critical item on the entire agenda.
Let's hear it.
Buried among all these community projects, they awarded a 3-year contract for an amount not to exceed $450,000 to a company called Advanced Integration and Controls, or AIC.
Almost $500,000.
Right. And the contract is for water and wastewater, SCADA controls, system integration, and support request services.
SCADA.
Yes, they're dropping nearly $500,000 on SCADA integration. Now, SCADA stands for Supervisory Control and Data Acquisition. I know this is essentially the digital architecture for the water supply, but what fascinates me is the mechanics of it. Why is this so expensive, and what is it actually doing beneath the streets of Gilroy?
SCADA is basically the ultimate invisible infrastructure. It isn't just a software program that monitors water levels on a screen. It is a physical-to-digital bridge.
Okay, how does that work?
The system relies on remote terminal units, or RTUs. These are physical sensors and microprocessors that are attached directly to the actual mechanical valves and pumps across the city's entire water and wastewater network.
So it's translating physical water pressure into digital data in real time.
Yes. And it allows for automated causality.
Meaning the system can react on its own.
Exactly. When a sensor detects a dangerous spike in wastewater volume, or maybe a sudden drop in clean water pressure on the other side of town, the SCADA system doesn't just ping a human operator and wait for them to drive out there.
It fixes it.
It can automatically trigger a sequence of commands to physically open or close valves miles away to balance the load.
That is incredible.
So for $450,000, Gilroy is paying for advanced integration, meaning they're likely upgrading legacy sensors, ensuring the encrypted transmission of that telemetry data, and essentially building a more resilient, automated nervous system for their most vital resource.
Which provides an incredible callback to the public comment period.
Well, with Ellen Martin.
Yes. Remember, she's the citizen who used her 3 minutes to warn the council about groundwater usage.
Right.
The public minutes reflect the anxiety of the citizens, but the agenda reflects the mechanical action. The council didn't sit there and debate groundwater with her at the microphone, but later that night, they legally executed a $500,000 contract to digitally monitor and control every single drop of that water.
It perfectly illustrates the dual reality of local government.
It really does.
The public forum is often this space for emotional catharsis, but the actual, tangible governance happens in the dry, highly technical contracts passed hours later.
It is staggering when you pull all these threads together.
Definitely.
A dry, 7-page PDF is actually the operating system for a civilization.
Yeah.
I mean, think about it. In a single evening, we saw the extraction of institutional knowledge to forecast labor costs until 2029. We saw a local council act as a buffer for national anxieties over immigration and big tech.
Huh.
We watched the state's cannabis tax legally funneled into local breathalyzers, land permanently restricted for affordable housing, and a massive digital brain installed to manage the municipal water supply.
It is a remarkable ecosystem. And, as you process how interconnected these systems are, it leaves us with a highly relevant and honestly somewhat alarming question for you to consider.
Oh, I like where this is going. What's the question?
We see Gilroy handing out a $450,000 contract for the digital integration of its water systems through SCADA, right?
Right.
At the exact same time, we see citizens at the microphone actively fighting the physical presence of massive tech entities like Amazon data centers in their community.
It's the total collision of local infrastructure and global tech.
Precisely. So how vulnerable is our local municipal infrastructure to digital threats? Right. As these invisible systems like water, traffic lights, power grids, as they become increasingly integrated and automated, are our local city councils quietly becoming the front line of civic cybersecurity.
That is a terrifying thought.
I mean, are the same local officials debating playground equipment also bearing the responsibility of defending the city's water supply from a targeted ransomware attack?
That completely reframes the entire document.
Doesn't it?
The mayor and the city administrator aren't just managing potholes anymore. They're essentially acting as municipal chief information security officers.
Exactly.
Wow. Next time you see a seemingly boring city council agenda tacked to a bulletin board, I highly recommend you read the fine print. It is the blueprint of a very complex, high-stakes machine. Well, thanks for joining us for this deep dive.
Thanks for having me.